Hey up guys, right, as you guys and girls know, I do some quite interesting videos, interesting subjects and whatnot, and you won't get much more interesting than this guy here. I've only known him for about 51 years, I would think. He's my brother, it's Chris. Welcome Chris.
Hello folks.
Now, we've been chatting tonight, we've been watching some quite interesting videos on what's going on in the world around us, and we've decided to do a video because our kid here has been through some rather strange happenings over the last few years, which, well, in my opinion, are quite astounding. It's the sort of things that they're just unexplainable. I don't know, where do you start, Chris? Over to you. I mean, I'll let you speak about what sort of experiences you've had.
Well, I haven't really been switched on to the universe or anything like that, like people say. I haven't been very sort of spiritual as such until the last 2 or 3 years. About 4 years ago, I was going through a court case fighting for custody of my daughter. My daughter was born at home. I delivered her at home, and I said when she was born, because there was no doctors, no midwives, did it myself. And my main point is that I'm not a stupid person. I'm not your average idiot. I'm highly qualified in my job. I've done lots of exams. Got to the top of the ladder in my career. So I'm not average idiot like a lot of people try and class us as. Eccentric, I'll admit I'm eccentric, but I also like to know. I ask questions, too many questions sometimes, because knowledge is power. Not power in a bad way, but power. If you know what's happening in your life, then you have the power to make your life better, to make it safer, to make it
I agree with that.
a lot wholehearted. Now, when my daughter was born, she's 11 now, I was the first person, as she came out, was the first person, she opened her eyes and looked into my eyes. I made her a promise that I would protect her with my life till my life was no longer. Till the day I die, I'm going to protect that girl. I went to court. It's a long story, I'm not going into get into detail, but I fought a system that was corrupt, totally corrupt. I had 2 files.
Can I just ask, did you know it was corrupt before?
No, I didn't.
This?
No, I didn't, not at all.
Right, so you, in a simplistic way, you put your trust in the judicial system.
I put the trust into the initial system. I had evidence of abuse, evidence of what was going on that was not on my part, but on the other part of the family. And I wanted to protect my daughter, because at the end of the day, I brought the life into the world. And a lot of people don't credit me with it, but I have family values, I have family morals. I'm 55 next year. And I've got 2 daughters. First daughter I lost because partly it was my fault. I didn't have the guts and the knowledge and the trusting in myself to stand up and fight through the courts to get that daughter back when the relationships broke down. Now, with the other daughter, I proved that the system was corrupt. I have 2 files locked down and hidden away that tell the truth. One of the files tells the truth, the other one tells lies, and it's full of them. There's full of no denying it. And they're there for my daughter. She knows about it. She's seen the files before they got locked down and hidden away. And they're there because that's the truth. And basically, while this was going on, there was a lot of... I started waking up to what was going on in the world. Things, injustices to people. People who are hard-working, that were being violated by corrupt systems, corrupt people. Evil doing, instead of the good coming out, the people who were doing good were getting hammered. And while this was going on, there was a lot of things happening in my life that I can't explain what was the cause. Where did this strange thing come from?
Can I just say, when you say that you started waking up, what exactly do you mean by that? Just for the people who were watching the video, because some people get stuck at that statement. What do you mean by waking up? We wake up every morning. It's
Yeah.
not what we mean, is it?
It was waking up to the truth of what was going on about us. And when I say waking up, I don't mean as in, oh, I'm asleep, I'm awake. It was realising that, hang on, these people are there to help us, but they aren't. They're there to protect our children. They weren't. They're doing just the opposite. And it added up, and I'm working it out, and I'm thinking, hang on, why is this happening to me? Why is this happening to my daughter? This total injustice.
So in reality, it was more of a gut feeling that you didn't know what, because I've come across this a lot, where people know instinctively that there's something wrong, but they just can't put the finger on it.
Yeah.
Now, the awakening that, in my experience, an awakening is when you start putting pieces together, when it's like a symbolic jigsaw. When you put pieces together, you see the fuller picture. Is that what you mean by waking up?
It is, because one thing added on to another. Why are they lying to me? Why are they lying to me? Well, they were connected to each other. That's why they're lying. But why? Because it was financial. It was nothing more than financial. And money makes people corrupt. Money, it makes people greedy. It makes people not act themselves.
So you actually
Doesn't
found
know
this out in the court system, that they were working together. Your solicitor and your ex-wife's solicitor were working together.
I heard them. I actually heard the two solicitors.
Which you wouldn't expect in a legal system.
Not when you're paying a lot of money out to someone. And while the court case was going on, I was talking to other friends at work, other people in my career, who were going through exactly the same thing, who had gone through the same thing and said, we used the same solicitor, got the same result. We got nothing. We didn't get the woman back. And I said, well, that is going to be, that isn't going to happen. I'm having her back. And she's been living with me, 4 years now? Nearly 4 years, 4 years in July. And
given the situation, you had to get her back for her own safety. This wasn't just a case of a jealous dad that was missing.
Not at all.
His daughter. This was it was very close to a life or death situation, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. And I know for a fact that if I hadn't have stepped in and started doing my own detective work on looking at wording of files, wording of letters, wording of the legal system. And it was a friend of mine who is a law enforcement officer, basically, for people who understand that, who gave me the chance to... I was given a hint, but I was told, don't name me, don't say who I am, but read this line on such a piece of paper and think about it carefully. And I did. And it was parental responsibility. And I stood up, and I was terrified because I thought, Christ, I'm going to get locked up. It went to court that her mother had parental responsibility as well, and she had the court order to stay with her. I hadn't done anything wrong. Nothing wrong. I was just classed that I was the father working, I couldn't look after young, and her mother was at home, her mother had got this, that and the other, she was a good mother, blah, blah, blah. But it wasn't. It was total false lies, and I got the evidence. The school had given evidence. Would other authorities give evidence? But no, it's ruled out. But
so the CPS actually knew that it was lies. They knew that she wasn't actually a good mother, didn't they?
Oh yeah, they actually admitted in the second report I got.
Children's Services, wasn't it?
When the Children's Service, when I got Ellie back, without the court's permission, using my parental responsibility as a parent, as somebody who cared and loved for my daughter, the child I brought into the world, when I stood up and took her back, they told me a week later that she was on the at-risk register. I never knew it. They didn't tell me.
Not at that time, before this happened, you mean?
Oh yeah, before this happened,
yeah.
She was on the at-risk register. And when I took her back into my care, they said, right, we're going to fill a report out, we're going to come around and sign her off. And what do you mean sign her off? Well, she's on the at-risk register. Well, no, she isn't. Yes, she is, because she was living with your ex-wife. And this is how I know it was corrupt. But while...
Okay, let me just go by this, right? So, she was on the at-risk register, and you as a parent bearing in mind they were split up, which is fine, that's not a problem, but as a parent you had a right to know that she was on the at-risk register and they didn't tell you.
Most definitely, that was kept hidden.
Okay, so to save this child from abuse, we'll call a spade, it was abuse.
It was abuse.
Right,
We
so
had the evidence
to
of abuse.
save the child from abuse, the only way that you got a good result was by not listening to the authorities and taking matters into your own hands.
Yeah.
Now, that wasn't anything unlawful, and you didn't use force.
No, I didn't, and it was all within the law, and it was advised by a law enforcement officer.
Now, can I ask, I'm pretty sure I know, but for the viewers, can I ask, was there any comeback whatsoever from the children's services or the police force because you took things into your own hand?
Not a thing.
Not one thing.
Nothing. And I've got 2 files, like I say, the 2 files, one from the original court case and one from the case, or basically from signing it off to get it out of their hands because they didn't want any more to do it, because they realised that I had opened the barrel. I took the lid off the barrel and looked inside and saw what was going on. And basically I've got the 2 file and they said, right, we don't want nothing to do with it. A couple of weeks later, I got little lass sorted and settled into the new school, and I had some threats from the other side's family, taking me to court, doing this, that and the other. So fair enough. Got in touch with the SS and they told me, we don't want nothing to do with it. You know what you're doing. It's nothing to do with us. We're out of it. No, hang on. It's only 2 months ago you were telling me that I had nothing to do with it. I'm the parent, but yeah, it's all on the other side. So that opened my eyes, and that was like, hang on, something there clicked. That yes, if I hadn't have had the nuts to stand up and say, right, I'm fighting for my daughter's rights, I'm fighting for her life, which it was, I wouldn't be where I am now. My little lass wouldn't be living with me, happily settled into school, doing fantastically at school, and she won't be the happy, healthy kid that she is now. But while all this turmoil was going on, there was things at home and in the world that I was seeing that was like, hang on, this is something doesn't add up. Something doesn't add up. I went shopping one afternoon.
There's some very strange things going on in your life at that time, wasn't there?
Very, very strange, and even to this day I can't
And just
explain
before
it.
we move on then, so is it right that prior to you gaining your responsibility as a parent, because it's every parent's God-given right, I don't think I'm far wrong here, it's every parent's God-given right to protect their child, no matter what that is. You know, if that child is faced with any form of abuse whatsoever, you've got to stand up and fight for that. Now, before you stood up for yourself, Chris, was you in the frame of mind, like I know a lot of parents are in this situation, where they believe that they have no power and you've got to go by the word of the authorities, the social services know best, or they claim to know best for the child. Now, given the situation, the evidence and the story that you've just given, that can't have been the case. Because if they was worried about that child, if they was worried about you taking that child from the mother, which was the case before she did what she did, then surely they would have been investigating you when you decided to take control of the situation, remove the child from that abusive situation, and basically disappear into the abyss with her.
There was no investigation.
Which is what you
all.
did to keep her away from that abusive situation. Now, if the children's services really cared for that child, the least they would have done is to had regular contact with you and Chris's daughter in order to safeguard that child. Now, did that happen?
Not at all.
Not one bit.
Not at all.
Not one
And
bit.
partly I'm pleased.
Absolutely.
I'm pleased because they kept the nose out of a situation that didn't need to be there.
Okay.
I have got my daughter back. I've had her with me for the last 4 years. I've had no financial gain. I only claimed the £80 a month that any parent would claim for the child. And while she was living with her mother, I was losing £550 out my wages every month to pay the CSA. Now,
and that's forcibly.
Oh, it was taken out wages before I even saw it.
Yeah.
Even though I said I wanted to look after my daughter and it wouldn't cost 550 quid to do it. No, you can't do that. And it was basically a cash cow. I was a cash cow. And I was losing hemorrhaging money to her. The money was being spent on alcohol and drugs, and that's proven. We've got the evidence to prove it. Little lass wasn't being looked after. It wasn't for the money I did it, because I sold everything I could. I become near enough homeless to pay for solicitors, to pay for the legal system to do what I believed they were there to do.
Which is what any parent would usually do. Now, this again, right, my videos come across as rather unique. You know, I always go about things the wrong way in a lot of people's minds. But this is the reason why we're doing this video this evening, because this is just another prime example of a situation that, in general, the normal human being has got no control over whatsoever. That is the belief. That is the general belief in the population, isn't it?
If you believe
in the system.
If you believe in the system, you are basically signing your life away and saying...
You sign your rights away.
You run me as you want because I am here, I'm your slave.
That's right.
And I refuse to be a slave.
Now, we're not saying that there is room for... we're not saying that there isn't room for the children's services in certain situations, because out there are some evil bastards that abuse their children, okay? And they don't always have that benefit of having a good parent that's going to save them, like Chris's daughter. Now, given that situation, then the children's services do have a job to do, but in a lot of the situations, as Chris has explained, this comes down to nothing other than financial gain. Am I right?
Oh, definitely.
Absolutely,
Most definitely.
Financial gain. And this wasn't just the social services and the children's services, this was actually the judicial system as well, because it was plain and clear, and Chris isn't the only case that I've been involved with, where there is a huge financial gain for solicitors and the court system. So, going on from that, Chris, you've explained what happened. You basically stood in, took control of the situation, which empowered you as a person, as a human being. Now, the fucking strange thing about it is, this is where life starts to become quite surreal, because even though Chris took charge of the situation, and as a single parent, I tip my hat to the guy, because it's not fucking easy. I mean, I've never been a single parent as such, because I've always had some sort of help. Years ago, when it was my 3 kids, I had Home Start, which they were brilliant with me, and you know, we worked together. But Chris has done all this on his own.
And might I add, all this time I've been fully employed, and 2 years of that time I was actually working shifts.
Yeah, so you've held down a full-time job. You've not literally switched off from normality and just jumped on the dole queue because you've got a child or anything like that. Okay, so coming up a little bit closer to the current day, since you gained the self-respect and the power to take things into your own hands and do the right thing for your daughter, things in your life started to really take a turn for the better. And some of these things have been quite surreal. Like I said, there's been certain things that have happened in Chris's life that have been quite unexplainable. But on the other hand, I think it's safe to say that your life has improved a huge amount.
Oh, most definitely, because I took the bull by the horns and said, right, I'm not being steered, I'm not being driven anymore.
So give us an example of some of the strange things that you've experienced since this this power of self-control and self-respect. You know, what's happened in your life where, you know, you've thought, what the hell is going on here? But it's improved your well-being and everything that you know about your life at the moment. So what's gone on in your
Well,
life?
basically, I think it was teaching me that don't believe everything you see. Ask questions, question everything. And it's like I say, we went out shopping one afternoon. I was with a partner. We'd gone out shopping, gone to the bank, got to get some money out, put my bank code in, and it wouldn't accept it.
This is out the ATM machine.
This is out the ATM cash machine. And it wouldn't accept it. So I tried it again, and it booted it out. So something's wrong here. I've had this card, this account, for 5-6 years. I know what my PIN is off by heart. So we went home, and we looked in the cupboard, and we've got a cupboard with all paperwork in. We looked it up. Found the little chickie you get from the bank that has your PIN number on. And I got my partner to read the PIN number out. And she read it. And it was what I'd been putting into the bank. So we got a card reader. So as I'm putting the number into the PIN, I'm holding, well, the card reader's on the table and I'm putting the PIN number in and she's reading it as I'm reading it. And I'm not joking, I wasn't on any medication or anything like that. The numbers on the piece of paper changed. And we looked, and it's like we both said, we couldn't believe what we were seeing.
So this is the standard letter that you get a couple of days after you receive your card through the post, where you peel the little window back and you have to look through the window to see the 4 figures.
So you remember what your PIN number is. So if you lose it, it's there.
Normally it says throw it away once you've learnt your number, but you happen to keep it. So it's the original document. It's original banking document.
In fact, I do believe I've still got it locked up in a file somewhere.
Yeah, so that's the 4-figure PIN that you knew what it was because you'd been using it for 6 years.
I've used it 5-6 years, so yeah, it was the same number.
So you went home, you double checked it, and it was there on the same bit of paper, but the figures were changing.
As we were looking at it, the figures actually changed in front of our eyes. And that sounds fairy tale. I can't explain it. Neither of us could explain it at the time. But the PIN, we put it into as it had changed on the paperwork, we put it into the card reader, accepted it. And it's been that number ever since, the same PIN number ever since. A few days later, I was at work, delivering fuel to a garage forecourt. The alarms were going off, everything was going bonkers. They had electric out, everything had gone wrong, and they couldn't explain why. Nobody else in the street, just the garage. We had to take readings from the tank, electronic readings off a printer, so that we knew that the garage had got the space in the tanks for our product to fit in.
This is part of the procedure of delivering.
Part of the safety and the procedure, to deliver it. 3 times we got printouts off, and we put them side by side, and the guy at the garage, the cashier that took the delivery with me, we saw the numbers changing on the paper, on the 3 receipts. We did it 3 times to get the numbers, and every single one, the numbers, we could see them changing in front of our eyes.
Right, so I guess this is part of the procedure as well, where they don't just rely on the delivery driver to fill in the paperwork. This has got to be double checked by...
It's got to be double checked by 2 people for safety reasons, because I could get it wrong, he could get it wrong. If we've got 2 pairs of eyes looking and checking the figures, tally up, then it's, that's okay, safe to do the delivery.
And when you're dealing with tens of thousands of litres of fuel, you've got to get it right.
Oh, Christ, yeah, that's the whole...
dangerous job. Okay.
No,
so it wasn't just you that was experiencing this change in figures, it was the garage owner as well?
Yeah, it was, definitely. And it scared him. He actually he was frightened about it.
And how many times did this happen? It wasn't just the once at the same delivery. This was...
Oh, it happened a couple of days in the same sort of week.
So that same delivery, what I'm saying is the paperwork didn't just change the once, it changed the number
3
of times. 3 times.
We did it 3 times. In fact, it was that bad. I said, something's seriously wrong here. And I took the delivery back. I refused to deliver because it's like I said, I couldn't make the delivery on my back saying, yeah, I'm happy with that, because it was... couldn't explain what was happening.
Okay, let's get this straight, right? So these figures that were changing were not computerised at all. These were written numbers on a bit of paper. Am I right?
No, they've been printed off from the computer.
Right.
But once they're on the paper, they should stay there. It's printed. It's in black and white, printed on the paper.
So it's like a printout.
Yeah, it's a printout. It's actually printout.
Now, this is where it gets surreal, because if it was a digital readout, like a calculator, LCD screen or something like that, if the numbers changed, there could be a realistic reason for doing that. There could be a fault in the electronic,
Oh yeah.
in electronics. There could be a crack in the circuitry, or temperature fluctuations can alter certain components on the PCB boards that could cause, a digital readout error. But this is not that case. That wasn't the case.
No. Another reason why we had paper printouts was because that was our proof that was what was in the tank, and it was part of the paperwork system. It was part of the process, and it had to go so that we knew what was in the tank before we got there, and knew what was in the tank when we left there, and it was all together as part of the legal document.
It's a safety procedure.
It was a safety procedure in a legal document.
Tanks. Right, okay.
And it changed 3 times, and we couldn't use that as a legal document because it's like, what? This doesn't happen. It doesn't happen, but it did. We saw it with our own eyes. And I refused to do the delivery because it's like, it frightened me because I thought it was just before the Christmas. About 2 or 3 days before Christmas, and I thought, I can't be risk having a mistake. No matter what's causing it, we can't have a mistake, because you're putting the town in jeopardy. You've got 36,000 litres of petrol. Something goes wrong, somebody's got to pay, and
it's not only your own life, it's everybody's lives.
It was everything.
So, have you heard of any other people that have gone through a similar sort of thing?
I can't really say I have, but I can say that there has been other situations around that time that I saw things that out of this world. There was one night I was sat watching the television in the little dining room. Partner, she'd gone to bed, and daughter, she was in bed. And I heard a slap against the window, in the window behind me. I thought, some idiot's messing about, because bear in mind we lived on a no-through road sort of thing, like a no end. It was like
it's like a cul-de-sac.
Like a cul-de-sac, yeah. And our house, the back of the house, was away from the road and away from the little track that come up. So I thought somebody was messing about. I went outside, and I never forget what I saw. Maggots. Raining maggots. The yard was that deep. It was 2 inches of maggots. It was that level. They were just flooding into the door when I opened the door. I was horrified. I thought for a start somebody had thrown a bag of fishing bait at the window. We're talking about 10:30 at night. So I went in the house, got my big security torch, come back out, looked on the roof to see if there's anything up there. Nothing on there, nothing on either roof. But it was raining. Maggots were raining out the sky.
Was it actually raining at the same time, or was it just maggots falling out the sky?
It was a cloudy sky. There was no rain. There hadn't been any rain, and it was dry. The floor was dry. The drive where I parked my car was dry. But the maggots, it was raining maggots in a little courtyard which was maybe 6 foot wide, maybe 15 foot long. And it was just raining out. I looked over the gate, not a single maggot outside.
And were they alive?
Oh yeah, they were. God, yeah, they were alive. They were
wriggling about.
They're wriggling. I went in the house because I thought, how the hell am I going to get rid of this? I can't have these maggots coming in the house. I videoed it. I actually videoed it somewhere. I've still got the video. I used neat bleach to try and clear a space in the yard, and the maggots just wriggled through it. It didn't even bother them. It didn't bother them. As fast as I brushed them away, trying to get them out of the yard, it was just downpour, these maggots.
So if you collected them all up, how many do you think, not counting, but what, a bucket, 2 buckets?
Christ, it was a wheelbarrow full.
A wheelbarrow full?
It was literally a wheelbarrow full, and I was brushing maggots, sweeping them out onto the drive. I was in panic because I thought, where the hell are they coming from? And secondly, how the hell do I stop them getting in the house? The last thing you want is maggots in the house coming into the kitchen.
That's not something you would expect to walk out your front door and find, is it?
It was.
I mean, come on. Even if it was, it was sort of countryside where you lived.
Yeah, it was. It was a little hamlet, little village.
So we were brought up in the countryside, weren't we? And it was nothing to find a dead mouse or a dead rat or something on the farm, which had a few maggots in. But this isn't what we're talking, is it?
No, we were talking
masses of the bloody things.
Biblical, scary sort of.
Oh yeah, you can almost say it was a biblical event,
Yeah.
really. I mean, that amount of maggots just doesn't appear from nowhere, does it?
But while it was happening, I went indoors and to get somebody basically to tell them as sort of, I don't know, as a reference point, look, this has happened. I rung an uncle and I explained it to the uncle, what was happening, explained it. I said, I've got it on video, I've recorded it. And he sort of, well, yeah, okay, there must be something. This doesn't happen. A fortnight later, well, at the same night this had happened, I was actually shoving newspaper in the door, trying to build a barrier up to keep these maggots out. I wasn't asleep, I was well awake, because I've still got it somewhere.
Was this the same night?
It was the same night.
Right, okay.
To try and stop them getting in the house, I'd put paper up, the newspaper, rolled it up. I'd literally tried to barricade them out.
That gives you a good picture of how many there were. I mean, we weren't talking a mugful.
We were out there, they were basically coming over the toes of your boots.
Wow.
And I was horrified. I was shitting myself. I'll be honest, I was shitting myself because where the fuck does something like it doesn't happen?
It doesn't happen.
It doesn't.
Does it?
You see it all plagues of fish landing out the sky or this landing out the sky somewhere else. You never think it's going to happen to you.
Mm.
But I went in after ringing my uncle and I went on the internet to see, Jesus Christ, anybody else happening? It was happening around the world. People were being rained on with maggots.
Yeah, didn't you go on YouTube?
I found it on YouTube.
Okay, and where was it happening? In America?
It was happening in America.
Okay.
So
So it looked like a worldwide phenomenon that was happening around the world, wasn't it?
It was a worldwide phenomenon, but only in certain little tiny sort of vicinities. It wasn't like a whole city was covered.
Mm.
It was like somebody's garden.
But there were
And out of
definitely other YouTube
Oh, God, yeah.
people going on.
Yeah, because I saved the YouTube videos as like, bloody hell, I've had this happen to me. And it was like, I put them in a file. Yeah, it was in a file.
You would, because it was so bizarre. You'd want some sort of backup to prove that you weren't going fucking insane, you know. So what happened then?
Well, a fortnight later, the next morning I got up and I thought, fucking hell, Jesus Christ, how am I going to tell little lass and my partner that the yard's full of fucking maggots? I'm not joking. I got up, I opened the bedroom window with the curtain and the bedroom window in the little lass's room, and I thought, I fucking dare look outside. There was nothing. And I mean nothing. And from the amount of maggots the night before, and there were white maggots, not red maggots, they were all white maggots and all fully healthy. They took bleach and they're just swimming through it. It was like, I didn't even hear. It was like another dimension. It was fucking horrifying. But I went downstairs on the back door thinking, how the hell am I going to get these? Nothing. I counted 2 maggots in the yard. I walked out to where I'd been sweeping them. Nothing. Not a maggot to be seen. I'm like, fucking hell, am I going crazy? I'm like, I can't explain it. A fortnight later, I got a phone call from my uncle. In a bit of a panic, but laughing. He said, what happened to you the other week? It happened to me. And he was having maggots raining in his garden as well. So it happened to the 2 of us. And it's, even he says, where the fuck did they come from? We don't know. We don't know. But I've also had funny, strange things. The bank account, the petroleum delivery. The
maggot delivery.
Yeah, the maggot fucking delivery. Sure they were being chucked out the back of a Hercules aimed at my house.
Well,
one
it
afternoon
does make you wonder where the hell they've come from. And like I say, if anybody else watching the video has had anything or heard anything or can explain anything, you know, feel free to comment and get in touch, because, you know, we're open-minded.
Oh,
and
God,
we'd like to hear other stories, you know.
Well, since then, I've tried to find these videos that I put into the file. Nothing on YouTube. They've gone. They've been deleted. But I know for a fact there wasn't me just witnessed it, because an uncle was witnessed it as well. He's admitted he's had witnessed it. It's like, even he says, I can't explain it. Well, the videos that were on YouTube disappeared. They were never there. But I also see 2 other sites that to this day I can't explain. One night I heard a commotion out, and it's all in the same sort of month or 2 that this was happening. Heard a commotion out the front window, out the front bedroom window, and my front bedroom window overlooked the little track that come down on the cul-de-sac in front of the house. It was only a little cobbly track in a little village. And I looked out the window, and what looked to me like a beetle, as big as your fist, it was huge. There was a beetle walking across towards, from the neighbour's garden, across to my front door. The size of this beetle was huge. I've never seen anything like it. It was as big as maybe as big as a rat. It was bloody huge. And it was fascinated because I'm looking at this thinking, Jesus Christ, I've never seen it that big. And it was a weird browny, goldy colour. I'll never forget seeing it. And I said to my partner, look at this. Oh, I'm not getting out of bed to look at that. You just come back to bed. And I said, something's going on because the dogs down the street were kicking off. So I'm not scared of nothing really. I'll put my boots on, pull my trousers on. I went out and had a look.
And to be fair, growing up on a farm, we do identify animals and we know what's what. So
Yeah,
it wouldn't have been a mistake. And
no, this was something that I'd never seen before, and it was huge, and it was a beetle, and you could see it walking towards the door. You see it 6 legs, it's freaking huge. I went outside and looked to where this beetle would have stopped, and all there was a slug. Now slugs don't have legs. Slugs don't walk across a drive, and this, whatever it was, it fucking walked across the drive. I took a photograph of it. I've still got the photograph somewhere of this slug, and it was huge. It was a slug that I'd never seen before. It was a weird goldy, orangey, browny colour, but it was a slug. There was no slug trail across where this beetle had been, and it was like, am I going out my head? Around about the same time, one afternoon, beautiful sunny afternoon, I was out in the garden, and I just happened to look up, something caught my eye, and being in Humberside Airport, where I was at the time, you get a lot of aircraft, little light aircraft coming through, and just nosy, just having a look up, another light aircraft.
You're always spotting what's coming in and going out. You get a lot of activity there, don't you?
A lot of activity, a lot of military activity. And that week, I'd noticed that the local farmer had cut his crops. Now,
can I just ask, was this the same week as you saw the beetle? Or?
Yeah, it was.
Okay, so there might be a bit of a link in with that.
Well, it was all in the same
happening.
time frame, if you know what I mean. They were in the same fortnight.
Okay.
The farmer, I'd noticed, because he used to walk my dog, right through the middle of his cornfield was a public footpath. And from the footpath, the field sort of dipped up and down and like a little valley, and you could see different levels of the corn. He cut the corn in a shape that didn't add up. It was a symmetrical shape, but there was 2 or 3 different shapes, a bit like a Tetris.
How did he cut it? By hand or with a machine?
He'd cut it with a machine. The corn wasn't ready for harvesting. It was a couple more weeks, maybe 3 or 4 weeks off.
So had he used his combine harvester?
He'd used his combine harvester to cut patterns.
Quite a distinct pattern rather than normally
they
would just do a couple of breeds up and down, do a moisture test,
Yeah.
and if it wasn't
It wasn't even ready for harvesting.
Right.
It was still green, just turning.
So in your opinion, there's no
reason why he would have done it.
Okay.
Even if it had been like a contamination in a crop, he wouldn't have cut it to like a Tetris pattern round the field. So my little lass used to go to school with his lass. So I collared him next day. What's been happening in your field? Nothing, why? I said, well, I was walking the dog through it last night, going for a walk, and I noticed you've cut strange patterns in. Now, up until last time, the farmer used to chat to us. He'd been a copper that had come up from Nottingham, married a lass up in northern Lincolnshire, and settled down on this farm. So he wasn't a stupid man. And up until this time, when I queried him about the crop cuttings, we used to chat fine, because I'd told him that we lived on a farm as kids, and there was a little bit of country banter between us, and we got to knowing each other fairly well. For the minute I asked why he'd cut these strange patterns in the crop, he blamed Lithuanian workers, which nobody had even heard of any Lithuanian workers, And he shut up, clammed up, and he's never spoken to me from that day to this.
He claimed that Lithuanian workers had cut it in that
He
pattern.
claims that they cut it in the pattern.
It's a strange
So
thing.
I asked him why. I said, well, why? He says, well, we can't discuss it. And that was it. It was like the window went up on the car, and he's never spoke to us from that day to this. Now, within a day or two of noticing these crop cuttings, not circles, but proper like boxes and T-shapes and squares and strange patterns that didn't add up. There's no reason why we'd cut them in the field. A couple of days later, I was in the garden, beautiful sunny day, been watching a few planes going across. There was what looked like a big black missile, maybe 400 or 500 foot up in the air roughly, flying across the sky towards the airfield. The first thing I thought was, holy shit, what the hell's that? Heading in the direction of the airfield. First thing was, oh, bollocks. Has somebody fired something? Where's this come from? Have we got some military jets up and somebody's fired something mistakenly and it's going to hit the airfield? So I run out of the garden and run down to the main road that come through the thing, across to the field, which had been cut with these weird markings, looked up at this missile, which is all I could describe it as, and when the missile, oh, that's all I can class it as, got above these markings, there was fins that opened out on the side, and a fin opened up at the back. It seemed to slow down, steer, flew to the left, levelled up, the fins went in, and it dived into the floor, into the little woodland, little snicket up the back of the farm, which would be, I don't know, a quarter of a mile away. It was at the other side of the field.
Is it like spinny?
It was like a spinney, yeah, like a little tiny woodland, like a little, only little woodland. Well, there's loads of birds in it.
Was there any noise from this missile?
There was nothing, not
Totally
a noise,
silent.
totally silent. It was
So it was only
black.
visual. It caught your eye, and
Yeah.
there was no noise.
There's
with
no
it at
noise,
all.
nothing at all.
Right. Okay.
But the speed that it just dropped out of the sky and aimed at the floor, I thought, fucking hell, that's going to go bang. It hit the floor, nothing. No explosion, nothing. But the birds took up out the sky. There was crows, a couple of pheasants flew up. They flew up, they shit themselves. They were out in there in a fucking hurry. Whatever it had landed, smashed into the floor. So me being like, what the fuck was that? Took to my heels, run across the field, down the public footpath to where this thing had landed. I searched that spinney, there was nothing. Nothing. Nothing in it. Nothing had been disturbed. And I walked through it, and it was only, I don't know, size of a swimming, well, half the size of a little swimming pool.
Were the markings still there in the field?
The bit markings were still in the field.
But no sign
nothing-
of anything falling out of the sky or...
Nothing at all. Nothing at all. And I was like, because when I see it coming down to the floor, like, fucking hell. I actually threw myself to the floor thinking, fuck, that's going to go with a bang. Because it was a big missile. And the speed it come down and hit the fucking floor, I thought, Jesus Christ, that's going to go with a... You expect a fucking great explosion.
What size would you say the missile was? About the size of, half the size of a mini?
I would say it was at least 6 foot long, 2 foot wide roughly. And it was shaped like a torpedo. It was like a missile, like a torpedo. But it wasn't until it got above these markings that the fins opened up, and I thought, what the fuck? You're seeing something like this, you're thinking, what? And everything that was going on as well at the time, it's like, holy
It's like
fuck.
something you'd see in a science fiction film, isn't
I
it?
thought it was going out of my head. I did, honest. But when this thing come down, it's like I say, it dived into the floor, into the middle of this spinney, and the birds took up, and I thought, fucking hell, you'd expect massive explosion.
Boom,
Nothing.
yeah.
Nothing. There wasn't even a bump. There was nothing. But the
no
birds took off.
vibration through the floor, nothing
No
like
shockwave, nothing. Absolutely nothing. But the birds took off. Something landed in there. So it's like I say, I run across through this field to search, see, fucking hell, what was this? I'm being nosy. Nothing blew up. What's in there? Nothing. There was nothing, no sign of anything entering the floor. Nothing at all. And something else that happened around this sort of time period of what was going on, I was out one night because I spend a lot of time in the evenings, especially because I was working shifts, night shifts. I love looking up at the stars and seeing what's happening. You see satellites moving, you see all sorts. You see amazing stuff at night. Absolutely awesome. There's as much going on at the night as it was in the day with the planes going past. And one night I'd been out looking at the stars and I'd seen a few shooting stars, a couple of satellites, and it was getting a bit cold. I thought, right, time to go in. As I'm walking in from the main road down this little track to the house, there was a silvery, what caught my eye was silver, but it was mainly the shadow that went over between me and the street light, actually put a dark shadow on the thing, like a huge bird. That's all I can describe it as, bigger than a man, and it was actually flew across the top of me, between me and the street light, and I actually felt the wind. There was no noise, but I felt the wind as it flew past and just disappeared into the night, and I shit myself, run in the house, and roughly since then, that's the last of the unexplainable stuff that's happened. I've had stuff happen since, but not as mind-blowingly, what the fuck was that?
Yeah, right.
Nothing as bad as that. But
can you explain any of it?
No, but on that point, this last week, maybe going back 2 weeks, when I've been out at night, because I go out every night, check the stars, I'm watching the Starlink go across, the Elon Musk, whatever it is, going across.
The SpaceX.
I have caught silver, like little silver whatevers, anomalies, like birds, flying across the sky in front of you at night. It's happened 2 or 3 times. And even the neighbours that were out watching for Starlink the other night, even their lad commented a couple of times he'd seen something silver flash, sort of maybe couple of hundred yards away from us.
Now, they wouldn't be bats, would they? Because
No.
bats wouldn't be out at that time
No.
of night. They come out at dusk.
Yeah. Oh, these shine up. They shine. They catch your eyes like, and they're gone. And it's like, what the fuck was that? Like, roughly about the size of a seagull, but flying at one hell of a speed.
Quite big then.
Oh yeah, they're big. But you can't see any actual wings. It's like a silver, I don't know,
Streak.
it's silver streak. But a biggish silver streak is like, whew, gone. And it's happened in the last fortnight 3 or 4 times, if maybe. And I'm getting used to it now.
And other people have seen it as well.
Well, the neighbour's lad, he saw it a couple of times the other night. The older members of the family were dismissing it because they were looking one way. He was looking the same way as I was looking. He'd seen it. But because the elder members of the family hadn't seen it, it was like, well, yeah, all right, we're dismissing it. But he saw what I'd seen as well.
So, there we have it, guys. There's some very strange things that happen in our lives, and you know, we've all experienced things like this. I've experienced quite some bizarre things in my life, in my time. That's for another video, maybe in the future. But I think the reason for doing this video is to get people to look at life from a different perspective, because even though it seems quite abnormal what Chris has gone through and what I've gone through and what other people have experienced, it's actually life. You know, whether we can explain it fully, understand it fully, is a totally different story. But one thing for sure is that it was real, yeah? And these things, in our experience, have come to us since we've started waking up.
Definitely.
And realising that we have our own powers, we have our own self-responsibility and respect to stand up to the things that are wrong in the world today. Now,
in my opinion, sorry to butt in, but in my opinion, what I've seen and experienced over the last 3 or 4 years, since I've been waking up to, hang on, that's not right, something doesn't ring a bell, it almost appears to me as it's like things that you've seen, it's like, that can't happen. Okay, so we're saying it can't happen. What was it? Why did it happen? Why did I see this? Why have other people seen it? Just because it isn't there in, like, some news company has read it to you, or the internet, you've read it on there, you've seen things that you can't explain. Just because I've seen it doesn't mean it was real, but it doesn't mean that it wasn't real. And it sort of opened me up to thinking, hang on, think out of the box. Instead of looking at what's being told to you sort of here and now, take 5 steps back, take 10 steps back. I was taught when I was working as a petroleum tanker driver, don't just look at what's going on in front of you. Take 5 steps back, look at the bigger situation, take another 5 steps, and you'll see the whole situation. And when you start taking steps back, not believing everything that's in front of you here, being a lorry driver, you don't look at the car in front of you all the time. You're looking 3 miles ahead of you to see what's going on up there. Because I've got 44 ton behind me, and I'm not going to stop it like that. We've got friends that'll be watching this, and they'll know exactly what I'm talking about.
Well, I think this is
You
good
need
because
to look.
Yeah, I think this is good because basically, another way of seeing it is what you've just watched in the past 50 minutes will be a very, very small percentage of what you've heard in the past before, and yet you'll turn the television on and you can guarantee that the news and what you listen to on the news will be the same as what you heard an hour ago, 2 hours ago, 3 hours ago, and that's why people believe it, because it's in your face all the time. Okay, there's a famous quote, I can't remember what it is off the top of my head, but it's, you tell a lie so many times it then becomes the truth in general.
And then
But
if you
it
tell a
doesn't
lie, you've got
mean
to tell
it's the
20
truth.
more to cover it up.
But it doesn't mean it's the truth.
No, it doesn't.
Just because somebody said something that you've never heard before, you probably won't hear a story like Chris's again in the next 5 or 10 years. Doesn't mean it's not the truth. Now, this is important to take on board for all those people that are going through this coronavirus pandemic, yeah? Not just hear a story and think, well, that's not been on the news, so it can't be true, okay? Wake up. Take a look. Look at the passion behind what people are saying. We've been watching a video documentary from a Dr. Buttar, who specialises in autism and vaccines and the damage that vaccines have done.
Don't mention his name too much, you get cut off on the video.
Yeah, in the past, yeah. And I tell you what, we analysed this, me and Chris have sat there and we've analysed this evening, yeah. If you are talking about a subject that you do not know enough about, you are you're wide open to scrutiny, you're wide open to people turning around and saying, hang on a minute, fucking caught you out on that one because I just heard what you said. And that doesn't run in with what you're saying now. That has not happened with this doctor at all. Now, look him up on the internet. I'm not going to say too much. I don't want my videos taken down. But you look him up and you see what he's saying about this current coronavirus pandemic, this problem that we're going through. And I tell you what, he's in the very minority of people that are telling the truth, in my opinion. Okay, because as he reels off the dates of events, who's involved, the money and the corruption and how it's laid out, that guy has not learned that. That guy knows that without a doubt, because a liar trips themselves up without realising it. Am I right? Yeah?
Definitely.
When somebody's telling the truth, when somebody knows their job inside out, when somebody has a passion about life, there is no doubt whatsoever that you will only get the truth, okay? And that is what me, Chris, and our friends around us are striving to bring about in this pandemic, because if ever there was a time in your lives when you really need to look at the situation and think, hang on a minute, can I really believe what's being told to us? Now's the time. Now's the time that you need to look at it and scrutinise everything. Am I right?
Oh, definitely. I mean, I've been called eccentric. I've been called weird. And to be honest, it hurts at a time. But if I'm eccentric, if I'm weird, that's me. That's my character. That's who I am. Love it or like it, it's not my problem. That's who I am. I want other people to be able to think, hang on, think out of the box. I mean, these signs or whatever it was that I got shown was basically, it's made me realise that, was there a missile? Yeah, there was something, I saw it. Was the maggots? I saw the maggots. These things, just because we're taught what to believe. Don't believe everything that you see. Question everything. Work things out for yourself. Step back 5 paces. Look at what's going on. Ask yourself what's happening in the world. Don't take somebody else. Don't run with the sheep and say, oh, well, they said it, so it must be right. Ask yourself, hang on, do I believe this? Do I believe that? Work it out for yourself.
Well, I could quite easily turn around and say, well, that's an awful lot of maggots, that, and there's no way that, I mean, it could have been a dead bird in the gutter. In fact, I think back at the time I did suggest that and says, have you checked your gutters to make sure that there's no, because you know, rats can run up drain pipes and that. Nothing.
You wouldn't
Nothing
keep
at all.
sweeping maggots
And
like
you
that and they
certainly-
keep raining on you.
You certainly won't get a wheelbarrow full of maggots out of just a gutter, you know.
But-
So like I say, even though I've never experienced it myself, I don't doubt that guy. Do you know what I mean? His experiences, his passion for telling it how it is, he's never faltered in the story, he's never said something now where I've thought, hang on a minute, you never fucking said that a couple of years ago. Do you know what I mean? Open your eyes, guys. Realise that these people are not fucking screw loose. You know, we're not doolally, we're not, you know, eccentric. We are what is known as a truther. We run with the truth. What is happening in the world today is not how we are meant to see it. We're being fed a story that is their story, not ours.
We're
It's
being
not
fed
the
and
truth.
led.
It's not reality. Yeah. And like I say, when you can work with reality, believe me, your world will get a whole lot better.
I saw a quote the other day, and a lot of people need to take this to heart and read it through, and it's always the wording. It's always in the wording. That's how the legal system work. It's on the wording. It's with the police. It's how they word it. And I saw a quote the other day, and it was anonymous. I don't know who it was from, and it made me realise that, oh God, yeah, words mean a lot. It's not the sheep are scared of the wolf. The sheep live in fear of the wolf. But it's the farmer that takes them to the abattoir to be killed and cut up for meat.
Yeah, slaughtered, yeah.
But the sheep are terrified. They spend their life in fear of the wolf. But it's the farmer that's going to slaughter them.
Yeah.
And when you look into that and you think,
Yeah.
holy shit, that's a powerful
Yeah,
quote.
it's the shepherd that teaches them that it's the wolf that they should
Yeah.
fear as well, which
But
is
it's the shepherd
which
that's
is a
the one that's
good
going to do them
analogy
in.
of how the government and the mainstream media and that are working with the general population at the moment.
I mean, these things about Donald Trump, everybody's slagging him off at the moment. When I first saw the guy on telly, I've never met him, so I couldn't say whether he's a nutter or what. But from what I've seen from different reports, Trump seems to know what he's doing.
Which is what I brought back in a. I mean, yet again, he might be okay one day and resonate with something with you one day, then the next day you might think, oh, what the hell's he playing at now? Do you know what I mean? But there may be an agenda behind the scenes that he's working on. Who knows? We don't know. David Icke was another one. I gave an example the other day. There's a lot of things that I look at and listen to, and over the years I've thought, there's just no credibility with what he's saying. But other things, it's like, well, there's no doubt about that. It's happening to us now. But anyway, we're going to have to cut off from this video. We've done an hour.
Yeah, because
That went quick, didn't it?
my tag time will be up soon. Only kidding, folks, there's no on these feet.
All right, guys. I hope we've entertained you for another video. And say, share us, like us, comment, give us your ideas. You know, if you have ever experienced anything like that, you know, let us know. You know, we're not running into the paranormal side of stuff, but it's all interesting stuff, and that's what my videos are about.
Just because you can't see it
Anything that's
doesn't mean it
interesting.
isn't there.
That's right. Okay, guys.
Stay safe.
Stay safe.
Take care.
Yeah. Wash your little dandies.
Yeah, from Barmy Fletcher Brothers.
See you later, fellas.
Ta-da, folks.
Bye bye.